All right, today we're going to dive into a pretty wild but really compelling argument making the rounds in the crypto world. It's a theory that tries to connect a bunch of dots, weaving them into this huge story about a global financial reset. And believe it or not, it all kicks off with just one number.
$1 billion. Now, according to the theory we're breaking down here, this isn't just a boatload of cash. No, it's supposedly the key, the thing that unlocks this much bigger story about where finance is heading.
And that brings us right to the heart of it, right? Why on earth would Ripple spend $1 billion to buy back its own token, XRP? The argument we're looking at claims the answer isn't just, oh, it's a good investment. It's way bigger than that. It's about a global game plan.
Okay, so Section 1, $1 billion signal. The whole argument really starts here with the idea that this buyback, it's not just a transaction, it's a signal, a very deliberate message being sent out to, well, the entire financial world.
So what's the spark? It's this one announcement. Ripple says they're planning to buy $1 billion worth of XRP right off the open market. That's it. That's the single event that gets this whole story rolling.
You know, normally, when a company buys back its own stock, it's pretty straightforward. They're just trying to boost the share price. But the source material we're looking at says, nope, this is something totally different. The theory is that this is more like a central bank buying up its own currency. It's a move to lock down liquidity and basically scream from the rooftops that this asset is about to become way more important.
And the timing? Oh, according to this analysis, it's anything but random. Think about it. After a decade of building out a global payments network, fighting through all those legal battles, this move is being framed as a perfectly timed, very accurate strike, landing just as the global economy is supposedly on the verge of a massive shift.
All right, so what is this big shift they're talking about? Now we're zooming out. The analysis starts painting this picture of a huge kind of stealthy rotation that's happening behind the scenes in the world economy.
The theory goes like this. There's a massive strategic shift happening. Big money is quietly moving out of old-school safe havens like gold and into digital assets like Bitcoin. And apparently, this isn't happening on the public exchanges you see every day. It's happening through private, over-the-counter deals, all part of positioning the U.S. for a future where digital finance is king.
And as evidence, the source points to this quote from Donald Trump. I mean, here you have a former president who is a pretty loud critic suddenly softening his tone. The argument is that this is a huge political signal, right? It hints that friendlier regulations could be on the horizon. And that kind of clarity, that's the green light that could finally unleash trillions of dollars of institutional money that's been sitting on the sideline. So you've got this political shift happening at the exact same time that central banks around the world are getting ready to cut interest rates. That means a new flood of money is about to hit the system, and all that cash is going to be looking for somewhere to go, somewhere with high yields, somewhere on the cutting edge. In the past, that money poured into tech stocks. This time around, the theory goes, it's heading straight for blockchain. Which brings us to part 3, opening the floodgates. This is all about how crypto is, step by step, becoming just normal, a standard part of the mainstream financial world. The source lays this out as a very deliberate step-by-step process. You know, first the Bitcoin spot ETFs get approved. That opens the first door. Then you see Ethereum futures growing, which deepens the market. Now, there's even talk about a Solana ETF. Each one of these isn't just a random event. It's part of a bigger plan to make crypto a must-have in every serious portfolio. And right at the end of that path, the argument says, are the utility tokens, like XRP.
And just look at the scale of who's getting involved. It's a huge part of this theory. We're talking the biggest names in the game. Asset managers like BlackRock and KKR. Tech and banking giants like JP Morgan and Citigroup. And it's not just private companies. Over 130 central banks are looking into digital currencies. Heck, the argument even points to cultural giants like MrBeast, who could introduce this stuff to, almost 500 million followers overnight? The scale is just massive.
And if you want a hard number, get this. The source points to data from Charles Schwab, a company that manages trillions of dollars. Visits to their crypto investment pages have apparently jumped by 90%. That's a huge signal that everyone from regular folks to the super wealthy is getting seriously interested.
Okay, so there's all this momentum, right? The floodgates are opening. But where does XRP fit into all this? Well, this next part is all about its supposed role as the central plumbing for this whole new financial system.
The magic word here is interoperability. Just think about it. In the future, you're going to have hundreds of different digital currencies from central banks, tons of stablecoins, all sorts of tokenized assets. The big question is, how do they all talk to each other?
How do you send value from one system to another without a million headaches?
Well, the argument is that XRP was literally built for this. It's designed to be the neutral bridge asset. The goal isn't to get rid of banks, but to give them a massive upgrade. Think of it like a universal translator for money, letting value zip instantly between any 2 points on the globe, no matter what system they're on. And to really drive this point home, the source uses a great analogy. It compares what Ripple's been doing for the last decade to what Cisco did back in the day. You know, Cisco was busy building the backbone of the internet, laying all the pipes and cables, long before most of us even knew what the internet was going to be. That's the long game they're playing.
And all of this leads us to the grand finale of the argument. The source basically boils it all down into a simple but really powerful economic equation.
Okay, first part of the equation, a shrinking supply. This is coming directly from that $1 billion buyback we started with, which literally pulls tokens right off the market.
Next up, you add rising demand. This is coming from all that stuff we just talked about. Banks starting to use the technology, all these tokenization projects, and just more and more big institutions getting on board.
And the last piece of the puzzle is that big macro catalyst, a fresh wave of global liquidity. Remember those central banks cutting rates? That's going to flood the market with cash, all of it looking for a home in exactly these kinds of innovative, high-growth assets.
So you put it all together. You've got a shrinking supply plus rising demand, and then you pour a tidal wave of new money on top of it. What do you get? You get what the source calls a manufactured scarcity model. And they're pretty clear that this isn't some new idea. It's a strategy pulled straight from the playbook of central banks themselves.
And so that leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? The theory lays out this picture of a perfectly timed, once-in-a-generation event where technology, finance, and policy all crash together. So is this the real deal, the start of a massive financial reset? Or is it just an incredibly well-told story, a masterclass in shaping how the market thinks? That really is what this whole argument boils down to.